Adam asks Sally not to push him away. How could you think I could give blanket permission that would take your life? He had to make a life or death decision and time was of the essence. We have never been able to lie to each other with much success. If you look at me, you will know that I mean every word. You will see how much I am grieving our little baby girl and how I'll never get over that. But at least I'm not grieving you. He'll never regret saving her because she deserves to live. Sally argues that Ava deserved to live too. Adam says she'll be a mother again. Even though he won't be the father, her next baby will be the luckiest little baby in the world to have her for a mother. I could only save one life, it had to be yours. Sally cries, please, just go. Adam walks to the door, turns, watches Sally crying, and then keeps going. At Newman, Victoria asks her mother why she'd think Nick's leave of absence has anything to do with Nate. Outside the door, Audra walks off. Inside, Nikki points out that Nate is already delegating his work to Audra. Victoria argues she is his 2-0. Nikki fumes, it's very presumptuous, Victoria. Victoria throws her hands up. Okay, fine, big deal. What if Nate comes in here and helps me to run Newman while Nick's taking some time off? She lists his impressive qualities. Victor points out she's romantically involved with him. Nikki wonders if this was his idea from the beginning. Victoria refuses to be interrogated and informs her parents if they have a problem with the way she's running the company, then they should just let her go. She walks out. Victor tells Nikki, we struck a nerve, didn't we? That troubles me. At the GTAC, Nate insists Victoria is looking out for her brother, and he doesn't have designs on his job. Nick wonders then if she asks if he'll say no. Nate only wants to help Victoria. If she wants to make him interim QO, that's her call. It's her decision to make. Nick's not buying his innocent act and tells him he's not upset with Vic. You're who I'm worried about because I think your plan is to take full advantage of the situation. Audra spots Adam agonizing at the bar in the jazz lounge and tells him he sure looks like a man with a lot on his mind. Adam Newman, right? Adam asks, do I even know you? Audra replies, not yet, but you should. She introduces herself and Adam tells her whatever it is she wants. He's not interested, no matter how flirtatious she tries to be. Audra was merely curious about her new competition. Adam confirms he's her newest and most lethal competition. Audra understands McCall is struggling to get back on its feet, and a man with his track record doesn't help its chances. Adam questions if she'll soon be in charge of the whole show at Newman Media. He has a pretty good handle on Nate Hastings. I can only assume that Victoria will soon be dragging him into the business of the parent company, which is something Nate covers. Audra muses that if he's right, she's more than ready. Adam nods, I just bet you are. At the hospital, the nurse gives Sally her release papers. Someone will be in soon to discuss them with her. She opens the folder to see the certificate of stillbirth and cries. At society, Victor complains to Nikki that the whole family is in upheaval. They recap everything that's happened. Victor worries that Adam is clearly on a downward spiral. He muses, one thing I can assure you. I bet Nate Hastings has something to do with our son's departure. At the GHAC, Nate laments to Nick that they used to be friends. Nick says that changed when he lied to his face about being with Elena when she was still with Devon. He's not one to throw stones about infidelity, so it's probably because he tried to sell out Neil when he targeted his family. Nate argues he ultimately did not betray anyone. In the end, he couldn't go through with it, and he's tried to make up for it ever since. He wishes he could do something to allay his suspicions. Nick tells him he can do that by staying in his lane at Newman Enterprises. It's the only way to prove this isn't some kind of master plan he cooked up with his sister. Nate respects where he's coming from, but if Victoria needs his input, he's not going to say no. Nick smirks. Well, there it is. Nate's about had it with Nick's insults and insinuations. Nick hasn't said anything that isn't true. Nate is genuinely sorry for what he had to endure, but he shouldn't blame him because he couldn't stop his daughter from being kidnapped, or he wasn't there for Sally when she lost her baby. Nick's upper lip curls. Victoria walks in and Tucker tells her she should break that up before it gets physical. Victoria stalks over and chastises Nick for confronting Nate. Nate says he can handle it. Nick gets a text from Sally that she's allowed to go home. He stands up and tells Nate and Victoria to go ahead and do whatever they're going to do, But remember, plans like this usually end up crashing and burning. At the lounge bar, Audra chats away to Adam about how convenient it is staying at the club, as it's a hot spot. Tucker wanders in and Adam asks if he's looking to cause more trouble or just stick his nose in where he doesn't belong. Tucker heard about Sally's baby and wanted to offer his condolences. Adam isn't interested in discussing his personal life nor his business with his soon-to-be rival in charge. He walks out. Tucker asks Audra, "Rival in charge? Have you pulled it off? Are you about to be fitted for the crown?" At Society, Nikki asks Victor if he thinks Victoria is the one driving this. He does. Nate is more than eager to follow her and that he doesn't like. Nick arrives at the hospital, where Sally says she's ready to go. Just being there makes her heart ache. Dealing with Adam doesn't help. It messes her up more every time she sees him. Nick understands and won't keep pushing her to forgive him. That's something she'll have to work out on her own. Nick asks, "Where exactly am I taking you? Have you given any thought to my offer of moving in with me?" Sally loves the way Nick is always looking out for her. She's touched by his offer, but moving in with him and Christian is an important step. She needs time to think about it. Nick tells her to take as much time as she needs. Sally wants to go back to her suite and take a long, hot shower and rest. Nick says, "Let's do it." They leave hand in hand. Alone in a suite, Adam agonizes as he flashes to Sally telling him she was pregnant, and the baby was his. He then recalls Sally putting his hand on her tummy to feel the baby moving, and their chat about having a little girl after the ultrasound. Finally, Adam recalls the scene in the hospital when she learned of the choice he made. Sitting up on the bed, Adam's expression turns dark. In the jazz lounge, Audra tells Tucker that things are progressing very nicely for her at Newman Media. Tucker says he ran into Nate, who spoke very highly of her. "Oh, Audra, heavy is the head that wears the crown." He adds it's just a little warning to be careful what she wishes for. Adam is trouble. You thought I was trouble. He's worse. Audra can handle anything he throws at her. She asks how Tucker is, still flying high. Tucker says the engagement is still on, though Ashley is bent on taking Jabat away from her brother. Audra thinks that must make him happy. Tucker says it's not a war he wants to fight. It's destined to fail. In the dining room, Nate tells Victoria she looks like she's been through the ringer. Victoria chuckles. The mom and dad spin dry. It's just given her more resolve. "I made it perfectly clear that it's my decision," Nate muses. "So you held your ground. Good for you." Victoria says Nick's leave of absence is effective immediately, and she'd like to name him as interim COO. Are you okay with that? Today on The Young and the Restless, Nick gets into it with Nate, Sally's released from the hospital, and Victoria promotes her lover. At Newman Enterprises, Nikki marches in and fumes. "Victoria, what have you done?" She saw Nicholas tearing out of there, none too pleased. "You asked him to take a leave of absence, didn't you?" Victoria says it wasn't an ask and maintains it was the right thing to do. At the GCAC bar, Tucker spots Nate and asks how the business world is treating him. Nate touts his record at Newman. Tucker is sure Audra can take some of the credit too. Nate shares that she's finally being given the chance to shine. "I know how that feels." He complains about his frustrating experience at Chancellor Winters. Nate goes to sit down and Tucker watches as Nick walks up and confronts him. "Gotta hand it to you, Nate. Pretty smooth man, and you know exactly what I'm talking about." Tucker orders another drink and muses to himself, "This could be interesting." At the hospital, Adam finds Sally's room empty. A nurse explains she's been taken for some final tests to ensure she's ready to discharge. Adam asks, "So she could be discharged today?" Sally walks up and groans, "Why are you here?" Adam pleads with her to hear him out and not push him away, especially not after everything that has happened. Sally sighs. She doesn't want him there right now and doesn't want to see him. Adam feels the same pain she's feeling and wants to help her through this. "At least tell me how you're feeling." Sally says she's fine apparently, at least physically. Adam knows that emotionally she's as wrecked as he is. He wants to tell her why everything went down as it did. Sally says, "I already know why you did it. I heard everything you said when you thought I was asleep earlier." She knows if he was faced with the same choice he'd do it all over again, and that's just not what she wants to hear right now. At the GCAC, Nate asks Nick where the hostility is coming from. Nick snaps at him not to insult his intelligence. Nate denies that's what he's doing and asks what's wrong. Nick replies, you. They go over his quick success at Newman. Nate says he has a great mentor. Nick muses, oh, is that what she is? A mentor? Or is she a target like what you tried to pull at your family's company? Nate can't believe he's still throwing that up in his face. Nick can't believe Nate thinks a betrayal like that can be so easily forgotten. What he finds really interesting about this is that his sister seems to be pretty central to all of his big power moves. At Newman, Victoria assures her mother that Nick will get past his upset and realize he truly needs this break. Nikki doubts that and fumes, I asked you not to push him, or at the very least not push him. Victoria complains he's stubborn. She made the right decision for Nicholas and the company, even if he can't see it. Nikki can't see it either. She narrows her eyes, so, what's your next move? Victoria rants that she's sick of people second-guessing her decisions. Just then, Victor walks in and asks, what's going on? Nikki declares that Victoria has forced Nicholas to take a leave of absence. Victoria fiddles with her files as Victor asks why she'd do that. Victoria claims he's been through a lot of trauma and she merely brought up the idea of him taking a little time off. Nikki recalls that she asked her the same thing after the Ashlyn Locke debacle, and she refused because she needed to focus on work. Victoria says it's a completely different situation. The women in his life need him. Victor booms that Nicholas is perfectly capable of doing his job while focusing on his personal affairs. Victoria says it's not about his capability, she's worried about him carrying the burden. He'll thank her for it later. Nikki asks who Victoria is to make that decision for him. Victoria says it's her decision to make. I am looking out for everyone concerned, including this company. Nikki says Nick may need a distraction right now. She thinks there's more going on than what she's saying, and it has to do with her relationship with Nate Hastings. Outside the door, Audra listens in. At the GTAC, Nate knows Nick has been through a lot, so he'll give him a pass. Nick levels, you and Victoria are using my personal issues to try and shove me aside. He wonders how long it will be until Vicky makes him interim COO, or has she done that already? In the hospital, Adam is glad Sally heard it all, the hard, painful truth. Did I say something that brought up questions you want answered, or is there something you want to say back to me? Sally says there's nothing that can change or fix the decision he made. How can I ever forgive you? Why didn't you give the word to save our baby's life? Adam grits, I couldn't. I had to give the word to save yours.